What's up? Hey everybody, it's your girls Bola
and Whitney,
and we are BlerdTalk with Bola
and Whitney,
and we are here for another episode. Today's episode is about something I'm very, very excited. It's the folklore, fairy tale, and fantasy episode.
Yeah. Though, to be honest, since we're blerds, there will probably be a lot of these. So.
Yeah, later on, yeah. There's some movies coming out in November.
But you're right. Now that we think about it, because, when we went to BlerdCon, we were talking about the fact that it was more so sci-fi this year. There wasn't a whole lot of fantasy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's not a lot of fantasy that's been released this year, just in general.
Exactly.
Like, in the genre, movie or TV-wise.
Exactly. You get it. Like, Game of Thrones is not on anymore, and I haven't watched that.
Well, it's not gone off. It's just that they had a very long hiatus. Withdrawal. Anyway. But yeah, it's been a little bit sparse in the fantasy realms lately.
Exactly. And so, you know how much I love folklore and fairy tale. And so,
my
that's my favorite
genre. Even
Me
more
too.
so than sci-fi.
Me too. Exactly. See, that's my favorite. Everyone's like, oh, yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Because folklore and fantasy, lots of time folklore will be added onto it. And if you notice, like, a lot of the big fantasy series have a little bit of folklore in it. Like in Harry Potter, she ended up talking about the tale of how the Deathly Hallows got to be, and which was based off of it's almost like a folklore for their wizarding world. You know what I mean? But it's like it explains things. That's what folklore does for me. It's like they not only offer a cultural explanation for things, but they offer cautionary tales. They like have themes that are expanded upon. Well, they can be expanded upon, but it's like the way the story goes, like you can understand why this theme or this story, this message, is coming out of the story. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, it kind of cues you in a way that is digestible for us, which is through story.
Yeah, story's the best medium.
I always love folklore. The Nancy, the Grimm, the Hans Christian Andersen. I've always been attracted to fairy tale.
Speaking of, my friend
Aesop's
Todd
fables.
Oh, yeah. Was it Aesop or Aesop?
Aesop.
Oh, really? Okay. My friend Todd was recommending some stuff. I was like,
okay.
My friend Todd, I hung out with him this weekend, and he was recommending some book series to me, and now I need to make sure I could actually find it. Did I make a note of it? Where did I put these things? Because I had spotty internet. Sweet! I wrote them down. He recommended the Lunar Chronicles to me, which are novels. Mm-hmm. Oh, you've heard of them?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I was just nodding because it sounds cool. I like the titles. Because as a writer, I'm really bad with titles. So I'm in awe of people's titles. Usually my titles always have something like Kingdom in it.
He also recommended this graphic novel series to me called The Wicked and the Divine.
Ooh.
Mm. And then he also recommended Twisted Fairytales, which I didn't make a note if that's a novel or if it's a graphic novel, but I'm looking forward to digging into it. Yeah, I like Shout out to Titles.
Thanks, Tom. Oh, also, I was on Instagram, usually chatting with people as I do, connecting. Mm-hmm. And I remember I found these artists. They're called Urbantoons. They're actually a company that produces black.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah, I saw your
my posts or my following.
Yeah, something. Yeah. You always send me stuff on Instagram, and that's the worst place to send me stuff.
I know, but it's easier to send it through Instagram than trying to copy the link. I guess I should do that from now on. Copy the link and put it in Messenger and send it to you, because then you'll get it. But anyway, I talked to Urbantoons, and they're a little publishing company. Mm-hmm. They make books for children, mostly Black-centered, and they kind of take some of the fairy tales and stuff and just reimagine them and retell them for urban Black folks. And I remember looking at their artwork and stuff, and because they even offer services for people who have story ideas but need illustrations and formatting. They have that in-house, so they do that as well.
Where are they?
I think they're based off of Pennsylvania, somewhere in Pennsylvania. Cool. But they're called Urbantoons, and I just wanted to shout them out because I told them I would. So here's my shout out to Urbantoons. You guys look them up on Instagram and get you guys some of those really awesome, beautiful, colorful books for kids. They're they have fables, they have fairy tales, but they also have just really cool stories for kids. They're beautifully illustrated. I really like them. Cool. And it features what? The Black people. So yeah, black and brown. I'm joking. Anyway, but okay, so let's talk about what we're blurting out about so we can get to what we're going to be talking about. Oh, by the way.
Yeah, let's actually tell people
that.
what.
Yeah, let's keep that going. So today's episode, we're going to talk about two, let's call them fantasy movies, fantasy fairy tale type movies. Mm-hmm. One is called I Kill Giants, and the second one, Whitney,
is A Tale of Tales.
Indeed. So we'll get into those a bit later.
You know what? Sorry, scratch the A. It's just Tale of Tales.
Oh. Okay, but so blurting out. We want to go first, Whitney?
Sure. So I'm currently blurting out because I saw like some photos of the Captain Marvel, like with Brie Larson in her. Wait, let me make sure I got her name right. Snap. Because I love her. She was in the United States of Terra. She was the daughter, and she was awesome. You know what? This is not conducive.
Her name is Brie Larson.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I'm like, I feel like there's another Brie.
There is, but it's just, I feel like it's a common white girl name. No offense to anybody who has that name.
Wow. Well,
I'm sorry. It's a name of cheese, which I do like. Brie. It's a very stinky French cheese.
Got some really cool photos of Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. And she looks awesome. And I'm so excited for like this first female-led Marvel movie. Girl power.
Oh yeah, I just realized. Yeah. None of the Marvel movies feature a female lead as the main girl.
Well, actually, Ant-Man and the Wasp was the first where a female was co-leading.
Oh.
Because they both got top billing. It was Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, but you look at Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Black Panther.
But at least they're making a Black Widow movie, which I love Black Widow. She's so, like, freaking kick-ass.
She's hot.
She is. She's
very
like, which movie was it? I can't remember if it was one of the, maybe it was the first Avenger, when she was, like, tied to that chair, and they, like, called her in, and they called the person holding her captive, and he gave the phone to her, and then she just, like, did some, like, really crazy, I don't know, martial arts and, like, set herself
free. Wait, there's a trailer already?
I'm talking about, like, one of the Avengers movies.
Oh, okay. Are you talking about...
I think it was the first Avengers.
Talking about Black Widow, right?
Yeah, talking about Black Widow. And
didn't she appear in Iron Man 2 first?
She appeared in, she might have been in
Iron Man. She was
Iron
Man 2 first. And
you're right. She wasn't in the first Iron Man. It must have been Iron Man.
It was like a mat, and she just slid on the floor, and I was like, she just looks sweet.
I know.
I remember when I first saw her, I was like, ooh, Scarlett, you need to keep that red hair. It's doing things for you. It's doing things for you.
Yes, but I'm so excited because they were, I forgot what article I was reading, but they're saying that they're making more female-led Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. So Captain Marvel will be the first, and we were for sure getting a Black Widow. I'm not sure what other ones, but it's just awesome. Girl power.
Yay. Okay, so is that all you're blurting out about?
Oh, and I'm excited because, you guys won't hear it this episode today, the day we're actually recording, but the new season 2 of Atypical, released on Netflix today, and I really, really liked the first one. It's a Netflix original series. It's a, how to describe it? Maybe I should look up a synopsis. Anyway, another person from the United States of Terra, because Brie Larson was the daughter from the United States of Terra, and the guy in here, he was Marsh, who was the son from the United States of Terra.
I did watch that show for a bit, and I did not know that Brie Larson was the daughter.
Yeah.
I have to go back and look. She was probably really young then.
I mean, that's super duper young. Super duper. But like, okay, so it's about Sam, and he's a teenager with autism. Well, he's on the autism spectrum. And it's basically about him. Actually, the first season is about him trying to. I think it's basically he wants to. I can't remember if it's just that he wants a girlfriend or he's trying to have sex. But anyway, his family is like, dude, what? Is the
one that's like post-apocalyptic?
No. This is just like.
Is it on the CW at all?
No, this is a Netflix original series.
Never mind, it's totally different.
But you should check it out. Check out the first season of Atypical. You'll probably like it. I really enjoyed it. It's really funny.
So the whole movie is just trying to have sex. The whole series, I mean.
No, I mean, I guess that's kind of like what prompts.
Is it like chewing gum? Because then I'm not going to be able to take it so much. Is it like chewing gum?
What?
You've never heard of chewing gum?
What?
Ooh, you should check that out on Netflix. It's also about a girl who in England, she has African parentage, but But the whole movie, she's trying to get laid.
Oh,
She has this boyfriend who's like very spiritual, but he's actually gay. And then things don't work out for her and him. But then the rest of the movie, the rest of the series, and it's very, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of very open with sexual references and words, and it's just out there when it comes to all that. Which is why I had like, it's very weird, I'm not gonna lie. It's very, but that's the British. They don't mind vulgarity and everything. They just don't mind putting everything out there, because at a certain point you're just like, y'all not gonna dial this back a little bit? Like, this particular scene is insane right now. You know what I mean? But they don't care. And it's Netflix, you can see anything. Anyway, I recommend you look at Chewing Gum. It's a comedy, but it's very crazy. Like, it's very crazy. But it's a British comedy, and everyone talks about it.
And you said that's on Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
Gonna add it to my queue. Check out Atypical, though.
Okay, I'm gonna look at the trailer. Alright, so what I'm learning about is something that I watched on Netflix. So Netflix, you're getting a plug today. You're getting a plug. Hey. The show is called Magic for Humans. Now, I love a good spectacle.
Ooh, I had that in my queue. I'm excited for it.
I love a good spectacle, and I love a good show. And then hear me out when I say this. I believe there are some things, like, I don't know if I believe magic exists, but I believe there's some kind of magic. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I would call it magic. But these illusionists and stuff, especially what the guy that's in the lead show does, I think his name is Jason Williamson. Please don't quote me on that. I might have gotten it wrong. Justin Williamson is his name. But he's an illusionist, and the stuff he does in the show is mind-boggling to me, that I keep trying to figure it out. Like, when I watch some of these illusionists and stuff, I keep trying to figure out, where can I poke a hole in this? And I can see, like, oh, he's behind that counter, or, oh, something's behind that thing. I've seen a live perform illusion on stage on, like, I think it was Britain's Got Talent. And these people were performing live in person, and I still could not figure out where the trick was. I was like, I can't figure it out. I don't know what's going on. How do they do that? This is performed live. There should be something I can see. And of course, you can't account for the cameras, what the cameras don't show. But it's awesome. I love it, though. I'm not gonna lie. I'm in awe.
I mean, that's a magician's bread and butter is how they do the tricks.
Yeah.
They will kill for it, as you see in The Prestige.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that movie. I like The Illusionist too. The Illusionist was really good.
I like The Illusionist as well,
but Prestige was better.
Prestige was a little bit better.
I gotta watch that again. But I don't know, y'all. I've watched like 3 or 4 episodes already, much to the chagrin of my mom, because she hates illusionists. And I'm like, Mom, I want to watch this right now. But I'm telling you, the guy straight up, the one that got me was like, he just goes up to random people and like does tricks and stuff, or random situations and does all these things. And the one I could not get around was like, he had talked to this kid, and this kid, he asked what the guy was afraid of. And then the guy was like, I don't like spiders. And then he showed him a picture on his own phone. He took the guy's phone, showed him a picture of a spider, and then he just swiped and the spider was in his hand. And it was real. The dude like got up and ran. I was like, oh, my mind was blown. But that's not even the worst thing I've seen. I think the thing that I couldn't get was how he managed to put 2 people's earlobes that were gauged, like, really big. Like, I'm talking about big gauges, that they've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
2 people that don't know each other, they're single. He ended up linking them together, and he just did like this, and then the earlobes were linked. And I was like, now how in the fish stick did you do that without one of them having a hole in their ear? I don't know. It was very cool stuff.
That's crazy.
I recommend you guys watch it if you're into that. I just like to watch it because I just want to know how they do it. It excites me. Like I said, I like spectacle. I'm cool with magic, and I'm just like, yeah, I want to see how they do it. The illusionists are cool. Anyway, that's what I'm blurting out about this week, y'all.
All right.
Magic for humans. I don't know why I did that. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Okay, so are we ready for the next segment?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so it's time for Topics in Blackness.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all, so today, it's Topics in Blackness. I know y'all heard about this all on the TV. It's the main thing I've been hearing about all day. when it comes to, the entertainment news and all that kind of stuff. But it's made national news, really. So there's a character, you guys all know The Cosby Show, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, Cosby has besmirched the name of the show, and now the show doesn't air, and it was a really good show. But that aside, we're not talking about that Cosby. We're talking about one of the characters on the show, The Cosby Show. His name was, if you guys remember the characters on the show, there was a bunch of kids on there, and he had an oldest daughter, whose name escapes me, but she had a boyfriend that eventually became her husband on the show. And the character's name that I'm talking about his name was Elvin Thibodeau, and that is played by
Geoffrey Owens.
Geoffrey Owens, exactly. And so, okay, I mean, it's been years. I haven't seen Mr. Owens doing a lot of stuff, but hey, stuff happens when it comes to acting. Like, it's a very unstable kind of field to be a part of. One day, you might be, on the top, and the next, you on the bottom. I mean, ask what? Kevin Spacey, okay? And that might not even be because he did something bad. It could just be like, hey, you're up there and then you're down. Like, not getting a lot of roles, it's...
Sometimes I feel like a nut, and sometimes I don't.
Exactly. And so, I just feel like what happened with Mr. Owens was just uncalled for. So, just for you guys who don't know, a fan or a person that was at Trader Joe's, and she noticed that he was there and he was bagging groceries. What? He was working. He was working. Now tell me why this woman persisted to go online, post a picture up, and it was almost in a way to kind of like belittle him that, oh my gosh, look at this actor. And now what he's doing years later, working at Trader Joe's, bagging groceries. First of all, what's the main problem I have with this?
He got a job.
Thank you. When is it? First of all, I mean, especially now in this economy, I'm like, hey, when you have a job, you have a job. Many people have, like, side jobs, like several side jobs to try and make money. One of them may be working in a fast food establishment or a grocery store, but who are we to, like, belittle that kind of... It's work, okay? I never thought anybody working was going to be a bad thing. So that was my main problem. I was like, why are you making fun of him for working? He enjoys what he's doing. He's getting paid. He's doing something with his life. I think, just leave him alone. But so that brought on a lot of unwanted attention to Mr. Owens and to Trader Joe's, and they love having him as an employee. But because of that, he gracefully was like, you know what, I'm going to resign from my position here so I don't give Trader Joe's any unwanted attention, because now it's like everybody knows what Trader Joe's he works at. You know what I mean? And so I just thought it was stupid. But look how awesome God is. You know what happened next with me?
Yeah, you told me.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell everybody else. So, what had happened next was, look at God. I just want to say this is a look at God moment. Okay. So, after all the, the outcry about how terrible this was, or like how bad the woman should feel for like making fun of this guy and doing what she did in the first place, Tyler Perry contacted Mr. Owens, who is now without a job, and said, hey, we're going to be making a movie. Do you want to be part of it? Now, if you got a Tyler Perry spot, it's probably going to be in a Medea movie, yes. Or on Have Nots, or one of his other many own shows. Mm. But hey, a job is a job. And why not a job doing what you originally was doing in the first place? Acting. He's going to make more money than he ever had. So that hater, he should actually be thanking you, because you took him to another level. Okay.
Now he's all the way up.
I don't know if she was white, black, yellow, or whatever, but I just want to say, you're sipping on the haterade really strong. Sipping on the haterade. And that was Topics in Blackness.
All right. So we're going to move right in.
Wait, I forgot to ask you if you wanted to say anything.
No, I have no topics in Blackness.
No, about the topic.
Oh. No, I just think it's like, dude, just step off.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep
why
a black man down.
Why you all up in my face with your phone?
He was fine working where he was. He was happy. Anyway, Trader Joe's is apparently a very good establishment to work for.
I think I've heard that before as well.
Yeah. All right, so we're moving on.
All right. So, are we going to do Tale of Tales first or I Kill Giants?
Okay, let's start with I Kill Giants.
Okay,
so the movies, we already told you guys what the movies we were going to talk about, and we're now in our fantasy, fairy tale, and folklore I think I moved those around several times, but it's okay. You get it. The FFF. Triple F is my thing, you know? Triple F is my thing. I got Fun, Fine, and Fabulous Life, Triple F Life, now I got Triple F Topic, you know? Okay, so, well, this movie is actually on Hulu, so if you guys are listening to this and follow us and all that kind of stuff, you guys go ahead and watch it. It's available for everyone who has Hulu. And, of course, I think probably you can rent it from somewhere.
I think it's also on Amazon Prime.
There, too. So, there's places where you can go and see this. The second movie, Tale of Tales, is on Netflix. And that's where you can find that. Or maybe Amazon Prime as well.
I think I don't know for sure, but I feel like Tale of Tales is probably just on Netflix.
Okay.
Don't know for sure.
Yes, and so we watched this because the trailer for I Kill Giants was very awesome, and it just looked like it was going to be like a fantasy tale, and I love the idea of a little girl trying to save her town from the giants that nobody can see, but she can see them, or that they didn't believe they were there, and they were really there. But when we watched the movie...
It's not exactly a fantasy movie. Well, it might be a fantasy movie. It's very hard.
It's not a fantasy movie, actually. I struggled watching it at first because I was like, this is not a fantasy movie. This is like a psychological children's film. I didn't know what else to call it. It's not really a thriller.
Well, it could have maybe been considered magical realism until you got to the very end of the movie to figure out what happened. Because, I mean, if Sorry to Bother You can be magical realism.
Okay, let's go. No, if we're going to compare this to Sorry to Bother You, my thing was at least that was part of the world, the story, that the Equisapiens, oh god, I can't even think of with the big dick energy that they have. I just learned that word from Issa Rae, okay? I was watching The Breakfast Club. That there's something called big dick energy. But that's what they have. Sorry, forgive me for saying that. But what I liked about magical realism is that it does take place in the reality, and it seems like, but it's almost like there's a bit of magical elements. It's not like a full-on fantasy like Lord of the Rings realm, which is full-on fantasy. But it's like, it's the real world with heightened abilities or heightened levels and just a bit of magic.
It's like Twilight.
In a way, yes. Well, yeah. Let's call it like that, because that's kind of like magical realism. It's very real, but it's the magical elements. And so I would definitely call this film magical realism, but the only reason why it's on the cusp is because it's really us looking at the mind of the young girl who's the main character of this movie. It's like these things and the magical elements of the giants and all this stuff is on her mind. And she creates this stuff because of trauma she's facing. By the way, spoilers.
Well, you guys know there's always spoilers. Everything we talk about.
Yeah, so just, read the synopsis. Read our little notes that we're going to put in the show notes. Read what we're going to actually watch. Watch it first, and then come back and listen. Go ahead.
Bola says that this stuff wasn't really happening, but by the end of the movie, I was still a little bit uncertain if the giants were real or not. I understand why people are like, no, this was just her coping mechanism, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm still a little skeptical because, with a movie like this, there's no way to know for sure, short of like the director or somebody coming out and saying, yeah, now it's all in her mind.
The way I was very sure that this was all in her mind was because she was the only one that could see them. But
her friend was like, she killed a titan with her bare hands.
I think she was trying to be supportive, like a friend where she's like, okay, I know this is him, because she realized the gravity of what was happening to the girl. Like, her mother was getting sick. Her mother was about to die, but she could not deal with her
train car that was all on fire and stuff.
I just think... have you ever seen the movie Shutter Island?
Yeah.
You know how...
That's what
by the way, we're spoiling that too. Yeah. We're spoiling that too, and Mark Ruffalo. And it's almost like they were doing all this stuff, but it was like he was seeing something else in his mind, but he was the patient, actually. And they had crafted this world and everything because his mind just does this circle thing where he keeps forgetting and he goes back and back and back and forth, and you have to keep, like, bringing him back to reality through this exercise. Back to reality. Back from the see it. Tell me how. Take the initiative. I'll be there when you can. Until you're ready. Yeah. I really want it. I really need it. Oh, how I really want it. I really need it. Oh. Anyway, I love that song.
I know.
We had to take a break for that. But it was literally like in Shutter Island, it was like he was just doing these things, but he was in his mind. I feel like she just ended up setting the thing on fire. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
She was the destructive one. She did all the stuff.
I feel like either way it was ambiguous.
It was because it's film. But in my mind, I got it. It was a coping mechanism, and that's why she said she didn't need anymore. If the Giants were really as bad as she has been telling the viewers that it was, then the Giant wouldn't be coming back. And he was like her. What's the word I'm looking for? He was almost like her therapist at the end. It's like, I came for you. You're like, but you're the Giant she's been trying to kill this whole time. You're the Titan, the big one, but you came for her.
And she knocked the hammer into the front of your forehead, dude.
And I thought it was a metaphor for death or something. I thought maybe this is death that she cannot wrap her mind around, that her mother's dying, that she just avoided so much.
Yeah. I mean, I did get that part. It's just that I still was uncertain as to whether the Giants actually existed.
I think it was very well done psychological film.
I did too. I really enjoyed it. It was different than what I thought it was going to be, but I really, really liked it.
Yeah, so me and Whitney cannot give this Fantasy Plus because that's just a new thing I created just now. But we can give it a plus on the fantasy, folklore, and fairy tale scale because I do not consider this a movie that is fantasy and folklore.
Well, it could be folklore for her. Because she did kind of create her own folklore around it.
Let's go with the genre. She did. Well, you're right. There was folkloric elements because she did craft a folkloric story.
She had levels of everything.
You know what this movie did to me? Like, I just saw in one moment the fragility and power of the mind, of the human mind, in just this one. Because I ended up tearing up at the end. Because
oh my God, me too. I ended up
crying. And my sister's like, you're crying?
Yes.
This is weird. And I'm like do
when
you
she was
understand?
in there with her mother, I was like, just, oh my God, tears just running down my face.
And it was just like everything came full circle.
Like, I'm afraid to open my eyes. And I was like, oh my God.
And I was like, her mom was alive the whole time.
Yeah,
I was so mad.
I liked the way they did the movie because the whole movie, you assume that
the parents were dead.
That both parents are dead, and that her sister is like the guardian of her and her brother. Because you never see
the mom.
Yeah, or a dad, which I assume is definitely dead. But anyway, or gone.
Yeah.
Or something. But it's just so... I like the way that they set it up until you don't find out till the very end that her mother's been in there the entire time, and she's been in the house, in the room, and she's just been avoiding her because she's so afraid of what's happening.
And that she can't stop it.
Yeah.
She crafted a whole thing, and I was like, I kept wondering... I mean, the way this girl did, she crafted a lexicon even for what is going on in her little world of giants and all that stuff. And she had convinced herself that she was trying to save her community from the giants. But it was just her own coping mechanism of how she felt so weak that she could not stop death from coming after her mom.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was when I realized that's when I had to soften for her.
That was a really powerful moment to me because, like, at the very end when the Titan comes and she was like, "You can't have her." At first, I thought she was talking about her friend who was hiding in the boat, but then she was like, "You can't have my mother." I was like, "Oh my God, the mother's alive."
Yeah, that was crazy because I was like, I love when they set it up because when the friend came upstairs and she just dropped the glass and she's like, "You brought me upstairs? I never come upstairs." I was like, "What's upstairs?"
I know, right?
What's in that room?
Yeah. And then that, like, brings you back to, like, earlier in the movie, like, when she's down in the basement and there's that voice.
And she only stayed in the basement.
Yeah, that kept calling her name. Remember that kind of...
Yes, and it was creepy. And I was like...
Barbara. And you see the shadows.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my God, what is upstairs?
Me too. That's why I was so scared.
And then I'm, like, wondering, I wonder if her mother was, like, calling her then. Like, Barbara.
That's what it was. And she was calling her because she wanted to see her. She'd seen the other children. So I just felt for the girl.
And I felt for her sister too. Her sister was trying
Her sister was struggling so hard to deal with all her BS. Because, okay, while the movie was going on, not gonna lie, the girl, what was her name? Barbara was her name.
Yeah.
I did not like her in the beginning. At first I was like, okay, she's a quirky little child. But then doing some weird stuff. Very weird stuff. And I was like, this is some WP stuff. That's what my sister kept saying. And when she's like, this is some WP. Like, she just kept saying that the whole time. She's like, when I have kids, I'm not going to let my daughters or my kids be friends with a girl like that. I was like, dang. She's like, she did some stupid. She was like, fish heads? Oh, heck no. Dead animals? Because the girl would be messing around with all that stuff. She was kind of an explorative girl. Mm-hmm. But Barbara, she had a really quick mouth on her. Yeah. She was kind of rude. Yes.
But she was self-aware. She was like, I'm not terribly kind to people who are dumb.
But she thought everyone was dumb. So therefore she wasn't kind to anyone, really. Except for her sister, which I like that she tried. With her sister, she had like the puppets one time when she was trying to be nice.
Trying to cheer her up.
Yeah. She didn't get along with her brother at all.
I feel like maybe at some time in the past they probably got on better, but they just handled the stress
and
of
the
boy situation
was full of rage. That's how he was reacting to his mom being sick and dying. He was just full of rage, and the sister was just like, I gotta keep it all together. And then the younger one was like, I'm going crazy. So it's just it just shows you what grief does to people.
Going crazy because you have like some type of coping mechanism doesn't mean you're going crazy.
Okay, losing your bearings a little bit, just because she had made up this little world and she was
wasn't
socialized well.
Okay, yeah, okay,
yeah. Just it was a little crazy. Her behavior was very erratic for a kid. That's why she needed a sociologist in the first place. I mean, a psychologist in the first place. And so I would say that. In the beginning, I really didn't like how her behavior was. There are some things that she was doing in that movie that we are going to reserve for our Had It Been Black segment quickly in the end. But ultimately, I like how the movie ended up. Yeah. I love that she had a redemption, that she had a breakthrough, and that she got to spend time with her mom before she passed.
She was gone, yeah.
And then she spent the next New Year and the next school year, and she was like, totally different. She didn't need her little ear heads anymore, which is like a protective thing. Mm-hmm. And Zoe Saldana played her psychologist, and so I just thought she did a good job. Yeah. I remember that time where she came to her house, Barbara came to her house, and then she's like, this is my daughter. And then Barbara's like, she's gonna die. And the husband was like, you said what? I was like, okay, Barbara, now you're doing too much.
Too much.
You're doing too much.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, this isn't go well.
Another thing for Had They Been Black.
Yeah.
Like, what you say? No, my daughter ain't doing it. She was a baby. So it's like, you just saying she's gonna die. Everyone's gonna die. You're like, hold on.
Yeah. I'm glad that she added on the last part, because if she left it at just that and be like, oh, snap, time to call the paddy wagon.
Exactly.
She needs a room now. It's no longer quirky goodness. This is...
But I have to say, this is what's coming out. Well, I think we have some better things coming out for the fantasy realm in October. We've got like the House of the Clock in its walls.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about that.
And then there was another one about like a Nutcracker story.
Ooh, the Nutcracker in the Four Realms. That I'm super excited about.
That one's coming out.
And Mary Poppins Returns comes out in December.
Yeah, so we've got some more fantasy and folklore stuff coming out soon, which I think will be better examples. But this one, I give it a nice try for attempt. It was a very good story. It was a nice way to tell it, using this natural realism. I honestly think anyone who has a kid who's struggling with grief, or a parent who is sick, or a parent that has died, and the kid has totally shut down, and they've created a world around themselves, and they don't know how to get through to them, watch this film so you can understand the psychology a little bit. So it's very psychological, this movie, and I liked that, because mental illness is like more people are becoming more aware. It's like the key word for the day, of the time, I should say. But it's good that people are talking about it because
it doesn't help when you just
sweep it under the rug. A lot of people are not dealing with their grief very well. I mean, suicide has risen in America even. And so I'm glad, because at one point I thought she was trying to kill herself when she went into the water. Yeah. I was like, no, this girl's not trying to die. I almost thought she was.
Yeah, it was a little, I don't know. Yeah.
It was hard. Anyway, that was I Kill Giants. All right. Next movie. You go ahead. You start with me.
Tale of Tales.
Yes.
So, I didn't know this until Bola pointed it out, but it's apparently based off of some Italian, fairy tales by some guy.
There's a guy named Giambattista, Basile, I think his name is Giambattista Basile. And he was a writer, a Neapolitan writer, actually.
Neapolitan?
It's the word because, it was
like
so old. No. Neapolitan is like the word they use for people from Naples because they spoke a certain dialect, Italian. But I did all my research because I watched that movie and I was so curious because I was unsatisfied with the ending. So I was like, what is going on in this? And I wanted to know what was happening.
Yeah.
So I just read a bunch of stuff on Wikipedia and other places. And so it was because it's very much in the Baroque style during that time. And it was like little Italian city-states almost. I don't know if they were all one unified place yet. But I don't know if they were in the 1500s, if they were all like Italy. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. But it was in the 1500s, 1600s that Giambattista lived. And they called him more so a Neapolitan, somebody from Naples. Mm-hmm. So that was the dialect that was used in the writings and everything. And it was Baroque style, which kind of explains why the kingdoms and queens looked the way it did, why the movie looked the way it did. It was Italy in that time.
The styles were very cool.
Yes, but it was based off of his collection of fairy tales and folklore. He had been collecting them for a long time. In fact, a lot of some of the Grimm brothers had borrowed stuff from his collection of stories. But he was apparently the first one.
That was like the earliest retelling of like Rapunzel and a couple of other ones.
Apparently, he has the first actual ever compilation of fairy tales. Mr. Giambattista Basile.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there was an Italian director and everything who did this film, and so
I really liked the whole look of it and kind of the feel, because like near the beginning of the movie, there were like large portions when there was like no like dialogue, and I really enjoyed those sequences.
Looking and seeing,
because exactly like what you say, show don't tell.
It was very cool. So one thing I noticed with folklore, because now we're talking more so about folklore than fantasy, folklore and fairy tales. So like I was saying before, folklore is definitely kind of like I want to say almost in a hyperbolic way, because they use such interesting elements in the storytelling that they kind of drive home a theme in a hyperbolic way. Because it's almost like you look at it and what happens in the story, you're just like, this is crazy. But then you automatically get what you shouldn't or should not do, what the story's trying to tell you. And so the director actually, and the writers and stuff, actually took 3 different stories from his compilation and put them together in this movie. And so it was like, the movie was about 3 kingdoms and 3 different stories happening, and they kind of tried to interweave them. So that since they were all neighboring kingdoms, they just ended up connecting over different places. The
funeral and the coronation.
The funeral. Interesting. There's a funeral. Anyway, funeral and the coronation. But so the one story was called the Flea, which is what it's called in Italian. Another one, it was called, in English they translate to the 2 old ladies, but it's actually the old lady that was flayed, and flayed just means skinned. And then the third story was what was it called?
The one with the queen.
The one with the queen. I think it was called the two brothers, or the queen.
Let me see.
The woman who I'm so sorry, I forgot y'all. But anyway, this one was about a queen who wanted a child so badly. But the director,
I think it was just the queen.
Oh, okay. There is a name for it, but I just forgot. But the queen, the directors and stuff who were talking about this film, they were saying that one thing he knows...
The Enchanted Doe.
That's what it's called. Thank you. The Enchanted Doe. And so, in fact, the movie actually changes the story for 2 of the stories. But for the one with the flayed skin, that one was exactly the way it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the other 2 stories had different endings completely. Okay. I'll tell you about them.
Yeah.
But... it's a lot of folk tales, and especially the original ones, not the ones Disney changed for us to ingest in a nice light manner. Most of the fairy tales and folklore have a little bit of the macabre, a little bit of a fantasy, a little
darker
bit of grimness. If I must say, you're right. I mean, she had to eat a whole sea dragon heart.
Yeah.
And that scene was so weird because the background was so stark white.
I know.
And then she was wearing black and then eating this big red heart.
The imagery was brilliant.
It was really sick because I was like, didn't the woman boil this first? So it should be more brown than pink?
And I'm like, why is that heart still beating?
Exactly.
After this dragon got, like, killed.
Yeah, so I was just like...
And I'm aware that it's killed people. I'm emphasizing. That dragon got killed, and his heart was still beating after they cut it out. I'm like,
yeah.
But you're not, like, Regina the Evil Queen, so I don't understand why the heart's still beating.
Anyway, but what I was saying was the director had picked these 3 stories because he saw the theme of desire and and how desire can lead to obsession. That was the main theme that he saw in all 3 of these particular stories.
Yeah.
So he tried to put them together. Yes, and so the first story was about a woman who wanted a child so bad that she did not care about what the cost was for getting the child in these other ways.
She was so freaking cold. She was stone cold. Like, when the
she
king was
didn't
dead,
mind.
she, like, stepped over his body, like, but here's my heart, though. And bye.
Because she just wanted a child. She didn't care about her husband, even though her husband loved her so much. In my mind, I was like, why did the husband have to go kill the dragon? Why couldn't he send one of his brave knights to kill the dragon?
Well, I guess because they're the one who wanted the baby, and I guess
it had to pay a price.
It had to be one of the people who actually wanted the child.
Yeah, and I know why. Because in the original story, in the Enchanted Doe, the king had done something to go get the king had done something, but he ended up being in a tower, and he shot something. And he got the heart, but then he did die in the story, in the original Italian story. And so in the Italian story, well, let's go back to the movie.
I'm sorry, I just want to interject really quickly here. Bola, you need to watch Beauty and the Beast on Netflix.
There's a Beauty and the Beast on Netflix? Yeah, I've seen it.
The French one?
No. Like the regular one. With
No,
Emma Watson?
No. There's another one on Netflix called Beauty and the Beast, and it's in French. And it's very interesting because...
Is it macabre? Because the French like
no,
that kind of stuff.
I don't feel like it's macabre. It's very... No, I don't think I would... No, it's been a few weeks since I've seen it, but no, I wouldn't call it macabre. Okay. But it's very good. It's in French. And
I would like that.
It's interesting because this particular beast got transformed. I don't know if I want to spoil it for you. You know what? I am going to spoil it for you just because it ties in here because something what you were saying about the original story and this being called the Doe, it really reminds me of Beauty and the Beast, this French one that's on Netflix, because the way that the beast became the beast is because it was punishment because he accidentally killed his wife. I actually don't know if it was his wife or not, his lover, because I don't know if they were actually married, but he was like in love with this woman. And he was a hunter. The king was a hunter, so he was always hunting this doe. And I feel like it was like some special color or golden or something like that. But anyway, he was constantly hunting it, and it always got away. And his wife / lover was like, "Oh, why don't you just let it go?" And he was like, "Okay, I will." But then he didn't, and he finally caught it, and he shot it. And when he shot it, she transformed back into his wife / lover, and it turns out that she was actually this doe that he was after, and she was I don't know what she was some kind of mystical...
Patronus? I'm still gonna know.
No. She was some kind of mystical being, and her father was like, I guess, almost the god of the woods. So as punishment, he turned him into a beast.
That's interesting. See, I'm not gonna lie, I love stuff like this. There's one fairytale and folklore, there's always like a kingdom, there's always like a king, or some kind of mystical person, necromancer, witch of some kind that turns somebody into something, or gets something turned into something. That's just a interesting thing that I always see.
But I think you would really enjoy it. Now
that you say that, I will look at that because that is something I would enjoy. But back to the story, it's like the queen had this two... You know what? In the original Italian story, the queen had twins herself.
Oh.
But she was she loved the first son that came out more than the second one, even though they were identical. They both came from the heart, but they were identical. But she loved the first one more than the second one, but the brothers loved each other so much. And so she got jealous of the first one and tried to kill her second son.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so her second son ended up having to leave and got married, and then there was some hunting thing involved, and there was a doe. That's when it digresses from what happened in the movie. But eventually, in the end, I don't think she died in the end of the Enchanted Doe story. Like, it was like the brothers did something, the Enchanted Doe, and then they both were able to reconnect and just try to convince the mom to, like, hey, our brother is married now, stop trying to kill him, and she just stopped.
Yeah, and that's so sad. A phrase that has to come out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. Mom, can you stop trying to kill my brother?
Yeah, or your son. And so, let's just do that. But in the movie that we watched on Netflix, the woman was so enraged by the fact that her son loved anyone else more than her because she loved him more than anyone else.
Yeah.
But it was like they were both birthed from the same heart. One was by an inception through a virgin. Like, she breathed the steam of the heart when she was cooking it. Mm-hmm. So she became pregnant, which I thought was interesting.
Like, I think that necromancer should have given, like, a disclaimer about possible side effects.
I know. I'd have been like, I ain't preparing this. You got a male version.
Like, you didn't tell me that I was going to get pregnant. This ain't cool.
I love that they just accepted this happened. But, again, this is folklore and fantasy. So she also had a baby in her stomach for 1 month. But the babies ended up looking exactly alike. But one was to a poor woman. The virgin was a poor worker person. Mm-hmm. His name was Jonah. And her son was Elias, who was the next in line to be king. And so, again, it was so sad that she had forced, because she tried to kill Jonah the first time. Mm-hmm. Jonah says, like, you know what? I'm out of here. Just like in the story. Mm-hmm. Because kind of, I don't want to say the names. The twins in the story, the original story, he realized that the mom is crazy. I need to get out of here. So he also left because he didn't want her to kill him. Yeah. And he didn't want to separate them. So he's like, I'm going. Mm-hmm. So that's what happened. But it's kind of sad that she kind of used herself because of her obsession to keep the boys away from each other, even though they love. I'm like, why can't you just let them be together?
I mean, look at them. They're
you have your son.
Much like twins.
Yeah.
Why would you try to separate them? They're like freaking brothers anyway.
I think it was sad because the way the mom was, she was so like, I want to say like claustrophobic. Possessive, and she was just causing a little claustrophobia. She was just like, suffocating. That's the word. Not claustrophobia. She was suffocating him, so he didn't end up having as much affection for her as he did his friend. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, they look exactly the same with that blinding white hair. Mm-hmm. They both came from the same heart. So it's like, they belong together, but you're trying to separate it. And it's like the necromancer said, it's like, you're trying to separate
the inseparable.
Mm-hmm. So you have to use violence. And then when he got attacked, I just thought it was messed up that she ended up being the thing that attacked. And then her son that she loved so much had to kill her in order to be rid of, to save the brother. And then he ended up being king. So that's what happened in the movie for the first story. But it just shows her obsession to have a child and her obsession with the child led her down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to talk about the second story, Whitney?
The second story, we're going to go with The Flea.
That one was interesting.
That was
It was crazy!
Because, I mean, The Flea only... I mean, I guess it was kind of a catalyst, but still, it didn't, like, play into as much of the story. But, so, this particular king, like, he has one daughter. Wife is apparently dead or something.
Yeah, she died.
And the daughter loves her father very much. The father... I guess he loves her, but it's not quite as apparent because he's more interested in his flea. And anyway, he gets this flea and he becomes obsessed with it. He feeds it his blood. It gets bigger and bigger. It gets to like
it stuff. It
large dog size.
I mean, I don't even know if large dog is the right word. I want to say like small cow size because it was so huge, and then it died.
I feel like it wasn't quite the size of a small cow. I feel like maybe Great Dane, but like obviously more rotund.
Maybe a boar or something. Those are big and fat. Because that thing was big and fat.
I feel like it was even larger than a boar, though.
Boars can be big, though. Wild boars are bigger. Let's call it a wild boar.
Okay, but anyway, it was a hella big.
It's nasty that the flea got that big anyway, because why? It's a flea.
But anyway, the flea dies, and the king is all distraught about his pet flea.
I just wonder how much blood it was giving that thing that it got so big. Because it wasn't eating the meat, the raw meat that he gave him.
It was.
Oh, I thought it was just the blood. Because fleas like blood. That's what they... Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's not important.
Fleas like blood?
Yeah, fleas, ticks, they bite people with the blood.
Ticks. I didn't know fleas. Oh,
that's why they always bother animals and stuff. You don't want fleas.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, but so the flea dies. The king ends up having the flea skinned, and he has like the carcass of the flea, or like I guess the skin of the flea hung up, and he's like, okay, my daughter doesn't want to stay in this castle with just me and some servants all the time. She wants to go out into the world, and the only way I really want to let that happen is if she gets married. but she wants to meet a husband who's courageous and strong, blah, blah, blah. And
she was a fanciful girl, like,
yes.
of the time, romantic.
So he decides that,
of age.
I'm going to, we're going to have a tournament for who's going to be your husband. He's like, whoever can guess what this hide comes from will be your husband. So different people guess. And of course they get it wrong. Until this ogre comes and he sniffs it and he's like, Flea.
Oh my gosh. That was the worst thing ever. I was like, didn't you have like a stipulation about this? Because I can't go back on my word. I'm like, why would this be the only thing? And you were like, no one can guess it. In my mind, I was like, so if you knew no one human can guess it, then that means you're not trying to give your daughter away then, right?
Pretty much. That's what I got.
I was like,
so... She basically said that when she was about to jump off the tower and commit suicide because she's about to get paired with this ogre.
It's gross. He was gross.
Yeah, he was not pleasant. But I was thinking, at first when I was looking at him, I didn't know he was an ogre. I thought he was just like a really big dude.
I just thought he was like one deformed dude, but then when I saw he was an ogre...
and I was like, maybe he turns out to be something really kind.
So many things that they tried to do to kill him didn't work. I was like, they stabbed that dude, they set him on fire, they dropped him from a high height, he still didn't die.
I was like, why won't you die?
Anyway, it was so terrible because...
But she ends up... in a bout of girl power, she ends up slaying the ogre, and she makes her way back to court and throws his head down in front of her father like, this is the husband you chose for your daughter. Yeah, bitch ass.
Yeah. The only difference I want to say that with this story was, in the movie, she got help from a family.
Yeah.
That had many sons. And they did like a trapeze act.
Was going to be like, her boojank.
Yeah, in the original story, it was like that. That actually a man did save her. It was a family and they had 7 sons actually. And it was like all the 7 sons did something different to try and save her, using their wit or their might or whatever. But it was only the 7th son that did something that actually worked. And then the 7th son was able to cut the head off. He was the youngest as well. And so in the movie, he cut the head off the ogre and then brought it, and then the king richly rewarded him and her, and then they were to marry.
You mean in the book?
In the story, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not in the movie. In the story, that's what happened.
Okay.
But I like the girl power thing, because she's like, I'm stronger than you know. You know, I just like that, but because the father was so weak and stupid. I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was annoying. But I liked the story the most.
Queen at the end. That was the final scene, was her coronation. Violet.
And she had to walk there too. I was like, I even thought that maybe while I was watching the ogre, like make her walk the whole way to their place. I kind of felt bad because the ogre was in love with her. But he's like, get my way, you know, and like grunting.
And then it was so messed up because she basically got raped.
Yeah, that was messed up too.
I was like, dude.
That's not cool. Like, I was like, thank you for going away from that. But I was like, that's also not cool. Because I'm just like, what does ogre whatever look like? Sorry, that's my own little thing. But that was my favorite story of the 3, actually. Because I liked it ended well.
Well, I like that. I did also like I think that was probably my favorite. Because I like the way that she, like, rose up and kind of,
Yeah, I like the way they changed it for the story. But again, the father's obsession with the flea turned out, like, backfired against his daughter. Like, he literally handed her over to an ogre, a monster.
And then his health had deteriorated because by the time she got back, her father was, like, really, really sick.
And not even able to be king anymore.
Exactly. But then at her coronation, he was like, he looked like he was back in good health. And it's like, see? Your daughter, like, the presence of your daughter was like, brought you back.
I think he felt so much guilt about what he did and how he wasn't strong enough to. I'm like, you're a king. Use your powers, your peoples, and be like, no, not you. You know, this is for humans, not ogre, human-esque people.
But then that's very discriminatory.
Oh my gosh, really? He was an ogre, and he was not cool.
He was not cool, but that was still his fault for not having set it up beforehand.
What was sad?
Just come back afterwards and be like, no, actually.
What was sad was like he killed the whole family that helped her. Like,
I know.
They rolled up, they did a trapeze act to help him. I really thought he died when he fell down, but when he found them in the carriage, I was like, what? And then the young boy set him on fire. He still didn't die. He just patted himself free and took her back to the... Oh no, he didn't take her back. She ran, and then she ended up cutting his throat because she like got to, she calmed down and was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to get this myself. I'm gonna have to do this myself.
Yeah.
And then she got close to him because he's like, get on here, get on my shoulder. I'm gonna take you back to the den, cave, whatever.
Yeah.
And then she's like, to his throat. So she came back all covered with his blood too. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
There's the macabre again. Yeah. So, and the last story, so we can wrap up. The last story was about the woman who was flayed. And so you had a very lecherous, like sex obsessed king.
Yeah.
In the third kingdom. And he was just anybody that was young, beautiful. I mean, I loved how in the one scene where they had like showed his wall of, the only pictures on his wall were of women. Just the whole wall full of women. His orgy scenes, like, it was just like, he was waking up and he was like, I'm tired of these women. I need another one. And just like, really? And he just heard this woman singing outside of his window, he believed just because her voice was beautiful that she'd be young. But really, these two old sisters were living in this house. And so he just came because he's like, oh, you have to be a beautiful young maiden. But they were really old, nasty looking ladies. And so... I
mean, I wouldn't say exactly. They were just super old.
Yeah, that one, her skin was doing some weird stuff. I was just like, ooh, her skin. But it was so interesting that they had put him at bay, but it was like, let me just see one finger. And the woman was trying to polish one of her fingers because her finger looked so decrepit. She used her other sister's fingers, who was slightly better. But they lied to the king.
The other sister had one finger that was good.
That's what I'm saying. She had one finger that was slightly better.
Why is there that just one random finger that just looks nice?
I love how they have that one random hole in the door. I'm like, so you just have a hole in your door? You can put your finger through? But it was so sad because the sister that really wanted the king, because I guess she was horny, I don't know. She was like...
Dora?
Yeah, Dora. It was Dora and Emma. The two sisters, and she was like, oh no, we gonna go through with this. I'm gonna go see and spend my night with the king. Bound chicken wow. So she did, and then, of course, when she was sleeping, the king put the lights on because her stipulation was no lights. Yeah. No lights, and then they did it, and then he saw her skin. He threw her out the window.
I was like, that is so messed up. You couldn't throw her out like through the door like a regular way. You had to make sure that she hopefully died by throwing her out from a multi-story window.
I felt so embarrassed for her. Luckily, she should have died actually from how far she fell, but like the
trees broke her fall.
The trees broke her fall, and then she fell in some green. And then, of course, a witch came by and saw her plight and her crying. She was like, "You wanted me." You're like, "No, you lied. You really lied. You should have showed him your face, so he could have been on to some other woman." Yeah. So the witch turns her into Dora, who had like fallen into the woods somewhere. Turns her into a beautiful young woman, and then she was naked in the forest, and then who's hunting in the forest? A boar.
But the
lecherous king, who just can't take his eyes off anybody. But he actually fell in love with her.
One that you just kicked out the window.
Mm-hmm. But he fell in love with her. I thought it was so interesting. And the girl was so obsessed with like being with the king that she just went for it. I'm like, did you not realize that when you were your real self, he kicked you out like a bad habit? Okay.
And I mean, it would be one thing if like, he was like, this is not what I expected. You catfished me. This ain't cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. But he threw you out of a window. Yeah. What kind of person does that? That's
I would have left it alone.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even marry him.
Who wants a person who's going to throw women out windows?
If you look at the time, he was the king. So it's like, you can't get any better than the king. And so she ends up marrying, and then Emma was like, I don't know what happened to Dora. I miss my sister. But then she was getting married, and she invited her sister to the palace. And then she saw how beautiful her skin looked and how everything, and that she had changed. And that she was just like, it felt like Emma was also obsessed as well. Once she saw what happened, she's like, I want to stay with my sister. She even kind of like saw them doing it, and I was like, she just came out. She's like, what's going on here?
I was like, dude, seriously. I felt like Dora was the intelligent one, and Emma was not that bright.
Yeah, Moaning Myrtle played her. The woman that played Moaning Myrtle
played
God. Emma. Yeah, Shirley Henderson.
Yeah.
So unfortunately for Emma, there was no kindly witch that had magical powers. The only thing her sister told her, Dora, was like, she's like, I want to do this too. I want to be young and beautiful again too. And then all her sister Dora said was, I flayed my skin, which means I shed my skin.
Mm-hmm.
And so she just went around and she just took that. She's like, I want to be flayed. I want to be flayed. I remember I had to search this up because I was like, this is an old term because I've never heard anyone.
Oh yeah, I've heard.
The only Flay I heard was Bobby, the chef, Bobby Flay.
I'm familiar with the term because of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and there's
and it was so sad because she ended up giving up all the jewels and stuff that she wore to the wedding just to have a barber just strip her of her actual skin. So then she just kind of walked back bleeding in this beautiful gown, and that's all that happened. We just know she came back to the castle and she was just bleeding, her skin completely gone.
Yeah, I was like,
it was so gross.
I was like, did she live or die? Because I'm pretty sure that you're probably gonna die if your skin gets flayed off. Infection, and I mean, skin's an organ.
This was the story I had a hard time finding. I had to read up a translation in English. Like Google had to translate the page because it was in Italian. A synopsis of it because it wasn't on Wikipedia like the other ones were. So it just says that that's kind of the end of the story. I'm gonna look into it some more, but apparently I didn't even mention in the story that whether or not Dora had changed back, because in the movie, Dora changed back to herself at the end of the movie.
During the coronation, she's like reverting back to her aged.
And I wondered, what was the point of that? That's what I didn't care for.
Yeah, I was
That's
wondering
the
about
main
that too.
thing.
I was like, what was the trigger that like...
Yeah. So the main reason I was unsatisfied with the ending was that I just was like, what happened with the boy? Like, he just stayed the king for the first story. He just stayed the king and without his mom. Fine. And he even let his brother stay where he was. But I was like, okay, so what? I needed some closure. The Flea story ended well because why we were at the end of the coronation. And I was like, but did the girl get a husband? Because that's what she wanted in the beginning. There was just some dude trapezing on fire at the top of them and they just kept looking at it. And I was like...
I guess it was symbolic of her trial in order to have come back strong enough to become queen. I guess. I don't know.
And then, of course,
and maybe in memorial of the family that
all died because of the ogre, because of her, really. And then, of course, while the ending was happening, the beautiful one, Dora, was turning back. And even though she had already married the king, she was turning back into another thing.
But we all know how that was going to end, whether you were his wife or not. He does not hesitate about throwing women out of windows from multiple stories.
And I think he also deserves that. So I kind of wish he just saw her so he could know what he married. That would have been such retribution because he was just able to be this lecherous king who was obsessed with women.
But then he would have just had her killed.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he'd have been like, oh, you're a witch.
Yeah, she just disappeared into the distance. So I guess obsession with beauty and stuff was the problem of that story. But you did see, what I liked is the director did demonstrate the perils of being so obsessed with something to the point where you would like sell your soul, sell yourself, when you go too far for things.
Yeah.
When you do something reprehensible. And I like that. That story came so clear in all of these. And then you end up sacrificing yourself in good things in the process. And in one case, one woman lost her life because of it. So, yep. But that's the story.
All right.
So our last segment that we're going to have is called Quickly. Had they been black? So we're going to go back to the I Kill Giants. One of the reasons why we thought this was like, in the story, Barbara was acting a fool. Like, she was doing a lot of stuff that if you were black, you would not get away with that. You want to tell them one, Whitney?
Yeah. So at one point, she smacks her psychologist, Zoe Saldana, and her sister like freaks out. She was like, "You hit a teacher?" She was like, "I would never hit a teacher. I have too much respect for teachers." She was a psychologist. I'd have been like, "You little something something."
I know, exactly. Just that line alone. The fact that she even said that back to her older sister. Oh my gosh. She should have got her tail lit up. Yes, but of course, because she was white.
Because
they didn't have any
I just think
retribution.
about A Christmas Story when Ralphie says like that curse word and the mother's like, "Where did you learn that from?" And he like sells out his friend. I think it's Schwartz. And so his mom calls Schwartz's mom. He's like, "Do you know what Ralphie said?" He's like, "What?" And then she like whispers it and you can hear on the end. And she's like, "Do you know where you learned it?" He's like, "Well," you can hear on the other end like, heard it from his father. Mm-hmm. It was like, no, he heard it from Swords. And then you hear the mother just like, what? And then you just hear like footsteps like boom, 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 boom. Pow, pow, pow. What did I do?
That was back when they did weed their kids. You had some sense about it, you know what I mean? But she was just acting a fool. Like all of her little tangents, her mouthiness. I remember when she told the principal, she told one of her teachers, she's like, so is your job just useless and unimportant? Or she said all this smack. And I was like, and nobody put hands on this child. Nobody. Had they been a black child, and then she was skipping school to run around in her little dragon traps and all this kind of BS. And I was like, how is this happening? How is she still alive? And nobody put hands to that behind. Like nobody put hands to her face. Had they been black, this movie would have never been made. I'm just saying, like, you skip school, you smack a psychologist, you mouth off to everybody. You even punched your own friend in the face.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh, she would have got it lit up if it was a black. Lord have mercy. She would not have been going around doing nothing. If her mom caught her, if she was black, if her mom caught her putting anything in, what you doing over there? Wow. That's all you would have heard. So I just thought, in my mind, I was watching the film, I was like, this girl is getting away with murder. I know she's struggling, but you need to learn some manners. You are still a little girl in middle school, okay? I would have slapped her myself. But slapping the teacher was the thing where I was like, nah. You don't get to slap me. I would have backhanded myself. Anyway, but that was our Had I Been Black, and that was our fantasy, folklore, and fairy tales episode. All right, y'all, we are going to be blurting out as in just going out. We got things to do and places to go, but please message us in our Instagram and our Twitter. Email us whether you guys like this film or not, both films. Whether you heard about it or some other really cool, awesome fantasy stuff that we don't know about. Yeah. We'd love to hear some feedback from you all. Okay?
Sweet. All right. Blerd out.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Please subscribe to our show on whatever podcast listening app you use and share the show with other Blerds and non-Blerd family and friends. And if you like our episode, please rate and review us on iTunes.
The intro and outro music is Twilight by Caption. You can find them on SoundCloud, username Caption, spelled C-A-P-S-H-U-N. The show notes are by Bola, Hanson, and the audio engineering is by Whitney Booker.
And you can contact us by email at blerdtalkbw@gmail.com. And also, don't forget to get social, you guys. You can find us on our social media at Instagram and Twitter, with our @handle being @blerdtalkbw. And we've got our individual things going on too, y'all. So you can find me, your Blerd Fashionista, on Instagram and Twitter at BolaStoryB. That's B with 2 E's like the insect. And I've got my own personal YouTube channel, just Bola Sade. That's BOLASHADE. D as in dog, E as in elephant.
And this is Whitney. You can find me at my company, Luminavi Studios. The email address is wit@luminavi.com. That's WHIT@LUMENAVI.com. You can also find me on Twitter at Luminavi Studios.